past week has seen Liberia's opposition vow to go ahead with the June protests due to the worsening economic situation in the country. And in the Sudan, the country's opposition and military junta agree on a 3-year transition deal. This is Africa Focus. Here's a peek of the stories set in store today.
Ivory Coast post-electoral crisis victims celebrate compensation. No jobs here. A quarter of a century into democracy, and South Africans are finding it hard to get jobs. Anything a man can do, a woman can do better. Lady lorry drivers change gears in Ghana.
I'm Lenny Rashid, and our sign language interpreter is Teresia Washira. Before we get into the main stories, let's take a look at the news that made the headlines around the continent.
Survivors gathered at a Red Crescent facility in Tunisia's Aziz on Saturday after a migrant boat carrying them from Libya capsized in the Mediterranean Sea on Friday, leaving at least 65 dead. One Egyptian migrant, Madour Mohammed, said that 75 migrants were placed in a small Zodiac boat, an inflatable boat, which overflowed with water and flipped over due to being over capacity. He said the migrants were floating in the water for 8 hours through the night until a small Tunisian boat, with the help of Tunisian military, came to their rescue. The Tunisian Navy brought 16 survivors to the coast at Zaziz. In the first 2 months of 2019, 164 people are known to have died on the route, a smaller number but higher death rate than in previous years, with 1 dying for every 3 who reach European shores. Libya's west coast is a main departure point for African migrants hoping to reach Europe by paying human traffickers, though numbers have dropped due to an Italian-led effort to disrupt smuggling networks and support the Libyan Coast Guard.
Thousands of supporters of South Africa's African National Congress took to the streets of Johannesburg on Sunday to celebrate their party victory in last weekend's elections. The celebrations continued despite a lower share of the vote, with the ANC party winning 57.5% of the parliamentary vote. The result was an ANC's worst performance in parliament vote since the end of the white minority rule in 1994, when the party swept to power under Nelson Mandela. However, in President Ramaphosa's first test at the poll since he took to power in February 2018, the party retained power in 8 of 9 provinces. To supporters of Ramaphosa, the ANC victory was an endorsement of his corruption-fighting agenda after he replaced Jacob Zuma. 66-year-old Ramaphosa replaced Zuma as the ANC leader in December 2017. His first full term as president should start later this month after his nomination by ANC lawmakers in the new parliament.
Forces from Misrata, loyal to the United Nations-backed Libyan government, and its leader Fayez Sarraj, advanced to Tripoli on Friday last week to join the battle against the Libyan National Army forces, loyal to Khalifa Haftar. A large convoy of machine-gun-mounted vehicles carrying dozens of fighters took off at sunrise from the northwestern city, which has been allied to the government in Tripoli since the start of the conflict. While Sarraj's Tripoli forces have the backing of the United Nations, Haftar has the support of U.S. allies, Egypt and the United Arab Emirates, which have helped train his soldiers. More than 60,000 people have been displaced from Tripoli since the offensive started. On 4th of April, the World Health Organization said 443 people have died and 2,110 have been injured. The front lines around Tripoli have changed little in the past week, and fighting has dropped off since the start of the Muslim fasting month of Ramadan.
A regional militia allied with the Nigerian government has freed almost 900 children it used in the war against Islamist Boko Haram insurgents in northeastern Nigeria. The move brought about the total number of children freed to more than 1,700, a UNICEF statement said. Non-state armed group embroiled in the decade-long conflict against Boko Haram recruited more than 3,500 children between 2013 and 2017 in Nigeria's northeast, according to UNICEF. The children were released in a ceremony in the northeastern city of Maigunduri, attended by UNICEF Nigerian Chief Mohammed Fall and Switzerland Ambassador to Nigeria, George Steiner. the militia group had committed in September 2017 to end the use of children in the conflict. Last October, 833 were released by the group. Nigeria's war against two jihadist groups, Boko Haram and Islamic State West Africa Province, has left more than 30,000 people dead and displaced millions more, with the Islamist insurgencies showing little signs of ending.
Former Barcelona and Manchester City midfielder Yaya Toure has retired from football according to his agent. Toure most recently played for Olympiacos in the Greek Super League during a short-lived stay where he made just 5 appearances. The 35-year-old Ivorian agent Dimitri Seluk revealed on Twitter his client had decided to retire a champion. Toure had a highly decorated career, winning the Champions League and 2 league titles with Barcelona. He also won the Premier League 3 times at City and scored the winning goal in the 2011 FA Cup final against Stoke. Toure, whose older brother Kolo Toure also had a decorated playing career, captained his country to the 2015 Africa Cup of Nations, where they beat Ghana in a penalty shootout in the final.
Ivory Coast won its independence from France in 1960. It's one of West Africa's leading powers and historically had been one of its success stories. However, in 2011, the country was embroiled in turmoil after incumbent President Laurent Gbagbo was declared winner of the 2010 elections. Current President Alassane Ouattara was eventually declared the winner. Since 2017, victims of the post-electoral crisis violence have to cause to celebrate after receiving compensation from the government.
The compensation process of victims of the 2010-2011 post-electoral crisis has proved to be quite successful in Côte d'Ivoire. Beneficiaries, though, are however worried about a return to violence a year to the presidential elections.
It makes me stop begging. It makes me stop begging my neighbors, my family. Now I am independent. I have been able to take care of myself and my children are in school. I am independent.
Between 2002 and 2011, the country was plagued by unrest, with the country almost divided equally into two between the government and the rebels. Tension culminated in the post-election crisis of 2010-2011, which left 3,248 dead and more than 1,000 injured and disabled, according to Ivory Coast Minister of Solidarity and Social Cohesion, Mariatou Kone. The minister heads the damage repair, the operation funded by the government to the tune of 15 million euros.
A national commission of inquiry has been set up and this commission has traveled throughout the country. It was this commission that identified all the victims. The 3,248 I'm talking about are figures from a well-established document.
Since 2017, 3,000 of the 3,243 victims have each received a check of about 1,500 euros for the rights violated, the damages suffered and the outrages endured. The operation is referred to as Yako, which means sorry or condolences in Akan language. Although it has taken into account the rights holders of 2011, the compensation process also covers all victims of the crisis since 1990, as recommended by a report of the Dialogue, Truth and Reconciliation Commission, a structure whose work started at the end of September 2011 and was completed in 2015.
When you see a country like the Ivory Coast, with all the crises that have happened, you get the impression that it has not given you any education. The Ivorian people did not learn anything from this crisis. That is, it seems as if nothing happened. When you see elected representatives of certain parties insulting each other, there is a problem. So we as victims are seriously concerned about the future of the Ivory Coast. We are seriously concerned. We do not want to identify any more victims.
The Commission has tried to adapt the concept of transitional justice established in post-apartheid South Africa, which has enabled this country, through listening and dialogue between perpetrators and victims, not to fall into chaos. But traumatized by the crisis that the country has known for 25 years, victims do not hide their concern as the 2020 presidential election approaches.
South Africa recently went to the polls. The margin of victory by the African National Congress showed that the voters are sick of economic stagnation and corruption. Another issue might be the lack of employment opportunities. A quarter of a century into democracy, and South Africans, even highly skilled individuals, are finding it hard to get jobs. Some feel like they have been duped into believing education is the answer to poverty.
A large portrait of a bright-eyed young woman dropped into a black graduation robe looms over a spotless tide launch in Protea Glen, a suburb of Johannesburg's Soweto Township. It is a constant and gnawing reminder of the potential that has gone unrealized for the past 10 years.
You go to school, you go to school, you go to school, and then once you are qualified, you sit with a whole stack of certificates that you can't actually use. But then you can see within the public sector that, yeah, I can make a contribution. Yeah, I can make a contribution. But it's like they are just not hiring the correct candidates. You never know that.
Armed with qualifications in wealth management, she migrated in 2008 from the small central city of Kimberley to South Africa's financial hub, Johannesburg, in pursuit of opportunities. To date, the holder of 2 bachelor's degrees has failed to find a job in her field. She has since acquired 3 more postgraduate certificates in a bid to enhance her chances, but all she has managed to secure is a part-time job at a call center.
I am discouraged a whole lot because there are times when I feel like, how do I even encourage my children to go to school when they can see me struggling with all these qualifications? Because it's like, but you've got so much, but you're still working a job that is actually for any other lay person. Like, you don't need to be so qualified to have that position. So how do you tell them that education is the key? The key to what?
A quarter of century into democracy, South Africa has official unemployment rate of 27.1%. Among people under 35, the rate is about 53%, one of the highest in the world. Causes of unemployment in South Africa are many and complex, the biggest factor being a slow-growing economy, which has failed to produce jobs at the pace at which new graduates enter the market. 22-year-old Swelopele Mapula is a media graduate. She completed her journalism studies in November 2018 at Rhodes University, but has been nowhere near a newsroom. She mails out job applications whenever she can.
And as a black woman, it's incredibly frustrating, because black women work the hardest, but they're the poorest. And for me, it's just like, it's not fair. It's genuinely not fair, and it's heartbreaking.
The International Monetary Fund in April lowered South Africa's projected GDP growth rate for 2019 from 1.4% to 1.2%, citing policy uncertainty, which with high levels of corruption and recurrent electricity blackouts has harmed investor confidence.
I feel scammed because in so many of these campaigns, right, they talk about unemployment, they talk about poverty alleviation, they talk about gender-based violence, but it's all a talk shop. And I genuinely feel like you're trying to target the youth, but even the representation in most parties is not, there are no young people in some of these parties even.
The massive unemployment rate is seen as fueling apathy among many young voters, as witnessed in the just concluded elections. With the dawn of democracy, access to higher education has improved, with the number of graduates from public university more than doubling from 92,000 in 2000 to 200,000 in 2016. But for Gomonso and Mapula, this is a little comfort for them. All they hope is getting a job and living the South African dream.
Coming up after the break.
Nigeria Got Talent. Youth from Nigerian slum take on the country's music scene.
We're about to take a water break. Don't touch that dial. Keep it switched. Welcome back to Africa Focus. Rumbling along the rutted roads of Ghana at the wheel of her giant truck, Abigail Asumadu Amor turns heads but keeps her focus. She is one of 21 drivers working for Ladybird Logistics, a company that claims to be the first company globally to employ only female drivers. In a tough industry dominated by men, the women are changing attitudes.
Located in the west of Ghana, the port city of Takoradi is a hub for transportation businesses. It's here that Payan Marfa runs her women-only trucking company, Ladybird Logistics. As well as empowering women in a male-dominated sector, employing female drivers brings other benefits to her business.
I think the female drivers are more cautious. They're really careful. Maybe it's a female thing because we are always thinking about the children that we have at home and making sure that you don't want to take certain risk.
Every day in Ghana, hundreds of truck drivers take to the country's ramshackle roads to transport petrol to mining sites. It's a job that's traditionally been done by men. A 2014 survey found that just 0.3% of Ghanaian women were employed in the transport and storage sector, compared with 7.7% of men. With over 20 female drivers now working at Ladybird, the reaction from other companies and from male drivers has been positive.
They're good drivers. We've not had any major incident to date. So I think now there's a lot of respect from the men, and they realize that these ladies are good drivers.
Following in the footsteps of many of her family members, Abigail Amoa was already working as a trucker. But when she heard about a new company employing exclusively female drivers, she jumped at the chance to get involved. For her, it's not just about doing a job, it's about becoming part of a company that is trying to break down gender stereotypes in Ghana.
So I feel so proud because it helped me a lot. So I'm encouraging other women. You see, we have companies, but all female. That's the first time in, I think, even not Ghana, the whole world. So I'm encouraging other women out there to join the campaign for us to empower women to drive.
It may have only recently been created, but this trucking company has big ambitions for the future. Drivers like Abigail want to set a precedent in the country that they hope will pave the way for change in other industries and sectors.
Vitiligo is a long-term skin condition characterized by patches of the skin losing their pigment. Its cause is unknown, but it is believed to be genetic. Due to a lack of information, there has been lots of misinformation and stigma around the condition. But that hasn't stopped Miki Deo from embarking on a modeling career. Deo is Tanzania's first vitiligo male model and is slowly changing perceptions about the skin condition.
Mike Dio loves to play basketball and skateboard like many young Tanzanians living in Dar es Salaam, the country's commercial capital. But Dio is different. 15 years ago, his skin began to change, and he looked distantly different ever since.
Everyone have unique things. Like me, I have a skin, it is my unique. Other guys, they have eyes, blue eyes, you know, so we are different. So everyone is unique. So if you want to be like someone, you can't, because he's unique.
Vitiligo occurs when cells that produce pigment melanin stop functioning, leaving white patches on the skin. At first, Dio was embarrassed and ashamed, but as he got older, he chose to be self-confident and pursue a career in modeling.
You know, in Tanzania, there is no anyone like me. So when few people saw me, I mean designers, they chose me because I'm the first one and I'm the only one. And that is the opportunity I got.
Model and spokesperson Winnie Harlow has gained fame while taking part in the hit TV series America's Next Top Model, has helped bring vitiligo to the limelight and inspired others like Dio to push back against stigma.
He actually brought to the industry a different type of uniqueness, a different type of beauty, and which inspires a lot of people out there who don't think that they can make it to the fashion industry.
Last year, Dio was selected as Tanzanian's top model at the prestigious Swahili Fashion Week, which pulls in industry heavyweights from East and Central Africa.
In 2017, Kenya banned the use of plastic bags, which are a major contributor to the 8.8 million plastics that leak to the seas every year, posing a threat to marine life. According to the United Nations Environment, there will be more plastics than fish in the seas by 2050. Conservationists in the Kenyan town of Watamu are seeking the help of locals to try to raise awareness of the dangers of plastic waste, which is posing a major threat to the marine ecosystem.
Kai is a sea turtle who was found by a fisherman near the Kenyan coast. The reptile was floating on the surface, a sign that she was unwell. She's now being treated at a clinic for turtles in the town of Watamu.
When the turtle started defecating, this is when we realized the turtle had ingested some plastic. What usually happens if the turtle eats anything artificial that cannot be digested, then to some point the digestive system will shut down. So the food starts fermenting, building some gas, and eventually makes the turtle floating.
But Kai is not the only one suffering the consequences of pollution, which is threatening the entire marine ecosystem. The clinic takes care of dozens of other turtles that have ingested plastic. According to the World Wildlife Federation, some 9 million tons of plastic end up in the sea every year.
80% of all the litter in the ocean is plastic. And the plastic is, of course, a tremendous problem. And since 1960, 20 times more plastic is produced.
Residents in Watamu do what they can to alleviate the problem. Every week, a group of locals work together to clear plastic that washes up on the beach. The clinic rolls out regular awareness campaigns and has been teaming up with the local school's Marine Scouts programme, where children are taught ways to rescue marine animals.
So we focus on turtles because they are endangered, but also they're quite a charismatic species. People like turtles. It's easier to get people to like turtles than maybe a ray or some kind of weird fish. But also because they're an excellent indicator species of ecosystem health.
After the scouts collect useful information about the turtles to help with their research, Kai is then tagged for identification purposes, ready to be released into the ocean once again.
According to a 2017 PricewaterhouseCoopers report, Nigeria's entertainment and media industry is expected to generate a revenue of up to $2.8 billion by 2021. Not to be left behind are Dixon Adire and James Nanami. They are fast becoming singing sensations in Nigeria after being discovered on a local talent show called Otukrokpo Got Talent in 2017.
Dixon Adire and James Namani love art so much that they sing their hearts out. 17-year-old Dixon is best known for his single Legwork, which has been ruling the Nigerian airwaves lately. It is available on major online stores. The 17-year-old goes by the stage name AOD. The Aerobeat song is typically performed while doing the Zanku, a dance step that went viral in the country in 2017.
I feel very happy. It feels like a dream come true. Thank God for everything. My music is being heard almost every radio station in Nigeria, and I'm very happy. It's like a dream come true. Thank God.
James, 13 years old, lost his father in 2015 and lives in a two-bedroom house with his mother, siblings and grandmother.
I've always loved music. I started music at the age of 10. I used my mommy's spoon. I played instrumentals and I rap to it. Sometimes I sing to it. And I always go for competition at the age of 10, 11, 12 and 13. But I got my breakthrough at the age of 14.
The two artists grew up in a shanty town in Nigeria's central Benue state. Although they are building solo careers, they occasionally create music together.
We are a group of six friends, so all of them can do music, but I can't. So they were like making fun of me that I can't sing and that. So just went home, picked one of their rhymes, then out of it I wrote mine. That's when I just came to class, then I just did it for them. They say, yeah, they liked it. We should go and record it.
Nigerian filmmaker and producer Pascal Atuma is working to help the boys build their brands. He decided to start his label, Tabik Records, to help nurture talent in poor communities where youth hardly get opportunities to thrive, after watching the two artists take part in a local talent show in 2017.
The motivation is the talent that I saw, Tubo, when I went to direct Tubo Got Talent. I saw that these two kids were so talented and I couldn't pass on them. So I decided, because of them, to launch a record label to help the less privileged and those in the community, in the society, in Nigeria and all the rest of Africa.
Much like the famous Nollywood film industry, music is now big business in Africa's most populous nation.
On Africa Focus, we love hearing from you, so make sure you get interactive with us on our various social media pages. Remember, you can view this program along with our wide array of other programs on DSTV channel 268 and on Azam TV channel 138. On behalf of the entire team here on Africa Focus, thank you for keeping us company on this exciting journey. Do enjoy the rest of your viewing.